Hello everyone, we're going to jump right into texturing. One of the first things I want you to do is we're going to model a crate. So I'm going to start with a cube, go ahead and just click your little cube, and then I'm going to just scale this at 10 in my XYZ to make it a larger size. Now with that being said, the crate is one of the most common things I can think of that's inside video games particularly. If you've ever played a video game, chances are you've broken or hid behind one of these crates that we're going to texture. So normally in games you either have to break it open to get coins or items or ammo or something like that, or other games you hide behind it for cover from enemy fire. Anyway, it's a really basic way to texture, but it is super effective, at least with this particular model. So since it's only, what, a 6-sided model, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. We have some, we're going to be able to utilize our UV map pretty well. And in fact, just starting with this particular model, we're going to have Maya do the UVs for us, which is really neat. You cannot do this with every type of model, but this one you can. So we're going to go ahead and go to UV, and we're going to go to the UV editor. Now from this point, you'll see by default we have our default UVs of this cube. Now this is not ideal for modeling or texturing for that matter, because of the UV space. Our UV space is from 0 to 1, and then 0 here to 1, and then over here is 1, 1. So this space here is our UV texture space. The rest of it, don't even think about using it. It won't texture. So you need to stay inside of this box. One of the things we can do is I'm going to go to Panels. I want to show you this really quickly. We're going to go to Saved Layouts, and we're going to do Perspective and UV Editor. Okay, so we have both of these views. It's just one way I can show you what I'm doing in both screens. If you have dual monitors, that's great. You can have your UV editor on one screen, and on your other screen you can have your Maya open in 4 viewports if you prefer. Anyway, in this particular video, I'm going to just stick with this so you can see what's happening in both of our view planes, or viewports, excuse me. So by default, actually, you're going to have this one selected, and that will be your UVs looking clear like this. I'm going to go ahead and click the blue one, or the box right next to it. It's shaded UV, so your UVs will be shaded a light blue. Light blue means your normals are facing the correct direction. If it's red, I'm going to show you. Mesh display, and if you ever have a red UV in your UV editor, select that particular face, do reverse. In this case, you'll see it turns red here, and on the object here it'll be black. In previous versions of Maya, this did not display this as black, it just showed it as a normal UV, so you'd have to rely on your UV editor. So now that's kind of a nice feature that they do have that. And here I'm going to just do UV or mesh display reverse again to make it back to blue, just to show you what that is. And this is just a really good tool to have on, especially if you're worried about, and this is something we haven't gotten into yet, but overlapping UVs. You'll see a darker blue. If you have a few of these UVs overlapping one another, it'll change to a different color also, and if it's a red over a blue, it'll be purple. So it is a super effective tool to have on here. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to unwrap this, and we're not going to go heavy into unwrapping today. We're just going to do the automatic unwrapping that Maya has by default in here. So one of the things you can do is just go UV with your object selected, UV, automatic. Now what you'll see here, I'm going to zoom out so you can see everything. It's projecting it from every from the left side to right side, front side, back side, up side, down side. In a nutshell, that's what it's doing. And if you have something that's like a cylindrical shape, it's not going to project your UVs very well, because it doesn't do a 360-degree unwrap for you, which would be amazing. I wish it did, but it doesn't. There is another way to do that, but we'll get to that in a later video. And for this particular lab, this is perfect. So we have our UVs. It places the UVs directly in the UVs perfectly, so it's inside the UV map here. We cannot exceed 1 in either direction, or this bold line. And it places them all perfectly unwrapped inside our UV set. So, and they're not overlapping at all, which is amazing. So just to show you tools, this is an entirely new UI too, by the way, one that I'm not 100% comfortable with yet, but just to show you, if some of these, it doesn't even, it won't even allow you. There's a setting you can turn off for it to allow you to do that, but if you ever do have overlapping, it'll turn like a darker blue or something like that, and you'll notice a different color change. But we're not going to turn that on and off, because I think it's a good thing to have on, especially when you're just learning. Okay. And because I try to mess with it, I'm just going to run an automatic UV map on it one more time, because it looks like it sort of exceeded, the, it did, UV set. So keep that in mind. It needs to stay inside. It's extremely important. Now, using my, I've already shown you it, but now we're actually going to use it for a really good use. We're going to go to our tools. We're going to use our move UV shell tool. So I'm going to just highlight all of them. This is how I was moving the other one around. Just really quickly, W, you can move them around, E, rotate, or R, scale. So you have all those same as you do in here. I don't know if the tool's still selected. It is. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of my UVs. Now you have to use the move UV shell tool. There might be another one, but select doesn't typically work, because we need to select the UV shells. The entire shells themselves, these blue squares, because you are able to select just the UV. As you can see here, you can select UV edge, vertex, same thing, and UV shell. So in this case, modify or tools, move UV shell tool. I find this the most easiest one to use. Just run a click and drag over it, and you'll see your UVs are all highlighted in green. That means they're selected. And in here, they're known as your UVs. Out here, they're still UVs, but it runs off your vertices, if you will. So from here, I'm going to go to image, and I'm going to do a UV snapshot. Image UV snapshot. I'm going to start to open up Photoshop. So go ahead and open up Photoshop if you haven't already. And I'm going to go ahead and browse where I'm going to save this to. I'm going to click save. Oh, actually, before I do that, I had it saved from previously. Create UV. That's fine. Create UV. And I'm going to hit save. And I have it saved as .tga. I think it did that by default. But create underscore UV dot. In previous versions, you didn't have to add the extension, or in previous version you used to have to add the extensions manually. Otherwise, it wouldn't save properly. It would come up with error, could not export out image, something like that. I think that's changed in the last year or two. But just as a habit I've been in for so long, I always manually add the extension. And I'm going to replace. And then my pixel size, I want these to lock aspect ratio. This should be here. And 2048 is a very, very common size. So if this isn't set to 2048 for you, and it's set to 1024 or 256 by 256 or 564 or something, whatever it is, make sure it's 2048 in size X. PX stands for pixels, and size Y. So this is your X and Y. And then PX for pixels, 2048. And apply and close, or just apply, either or. And make sure your image format, before you do that, is under Targa. So I saved it as a .tga because I feel Targas are some of the better, higher quality images that are used for texturing. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit apply and close. overwrite. Yours probably won't say that unless you're overwriting something else. And now in my Photoshop, I'm going to open, create UV, and you'll see that the UVs are the UV shells only have the white border around it and the background's black. Now that we've gotten this far, we are going to go ahead and I've already started to I downloaded this. This is a free website. So what it is it used to be known as CG Textures. Textures.com it is called now. So in here I have 14 free credits. I guess you get so many credits per month or something, maybe 15. Let's see. Free accounts download up to 15 images every day for free. So there you go. It is a free website. If you were to publish anything and earn money on that particular model with a texture, so on and so forth, make sure that you check their use rights. So they're like copyright rights and things like that. Let's see if it's down here. Terms of use. Here it is. Make sure you read this. Last time I checked, I believe this is all you're allowed to use it for free for your own personal use, education also. When you get into publishing and things like that, typically if you're working for a company, they're going to have a lawyer that will be able to tell you detailed information on what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. We don't have to worry about all that complicated stuff. We can just kind of have fun and dive into our texturing. So I'm going to go to Crate. I looked up a Crate before, and I decided on this one. And the reason being, I scrubbed through a couple. I thought some of them were nice. This is actually a pretty nice one too. Yeah, it doesn't really matter which one we select. So here's another one, and the reason I'm selecting this one, and we're gonna have to Photoshop it a bit. The reason I'm selecting this one is because hold on. Is because of the shape of it. So it's like a perfect kind of square, the same as our UV sets. I actually think this one might be a little bit better for us to use. So I'm going to use this one. And I already downloaded this one. I found out that my resolution, I thought it was far too small. So I'm going to go ahead and go download the 2 free credit here, this medium one. Save file. Okay. It's downloaded. Go here. And just checking here. So I opened up my file location in my Photoshop. Oop, it's not that one. I'm going to just go ahead and click and drag this in. Ooh, maybe it was the other one. Okay, so it must have been this one. What I'm going to do from here is I'm just going to go ahead and size this in. And since this is just sort of like a beginner sort of lab, I'm just going to use my cropping tool to fit it in. If you are very particular, I could go ahead and clean this up. This is a pretty easy one to clean up, so I'm just going to go ahead and use my selection tool. And obviously it says the smart object is not directly editable. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to create 2 layers, and just so for sake of name, I'm going to combine them, Control E, or merge the layers, and that editable stuff will disappear. Now I can go ahead and do whatever I want to it. So just going to go ahead and delete what I don't need. Something like that. Okay, so now I've got my square, and all I'm going to do is simply move and place this as I need it. So I'm using my move tool here, up here in the corner, and Control T is edit, transform, or edit free transform. So Control T is the keyboard shortcut. Zoom in so I can see here, and I just want it to fit into my square. It can fall out of the lines just slightly because we just want to make sure that it is fitting into it. There we go. That just snaps to the corner, so I'm okay with that. Now I can go ahead and duplicate this size. I'll do a explain to what I'm doing here. I'm selecting this, clicking and dragging to my new layer, and it is duplicating my layer, and I'm using my move tool to simply slide it over. And I'm going to do that as many times as I need. And make sure you zoom in so you can see. We're just going to do this a couple times. And you can use your arrow keys to move from by pixel by pixel. Okay, and once more. Just moving these into place. And now zoom in is you can use the magnifying glass. I use Control minus and Control plus. It's just prefer using keyboard shortcuts. It's a much faster way to work. And with that being said, this is my texture created for this. One other thing, I'm going to save this out. And I'm not going to save it as a PSD. Well, I'm going to save out the PSD file first because it's going to be create, and this is going to be material, and then okay. So now I have a PSD file, an editable file of it. I'm pressing Control Shift S, and now I'm going to save out a Targa file. Create material.targa, save. Okay, and one more thing. We on Targa, make sure you click off alpha channels. I just remembered that. So if you already went ahead and saved it, resave it, go back and resave it, create material or whatever you want to call it. Make sure you click off alpha channels. Select this off, otherwise you're going to see some really strange transparency happening. So I'm going to click save, and I'm going to actually call this one 2, and I'm going to show you the difference. And it's going to pop up with how many pixels you want. I save it out as 32 pixels. One more time because Targa 2, alpha channels off, save, yes, and because I have 2 monitors here, Targa options, I save it out 32 bits per pixel and click OK. Now back into Maya. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to select my object, and I'm going to assign new material, and this can be whatever you want. I'll do a Lambert, so we have less features to kind of work with. Under Lambert 2, under color, we're going to select the little checkbox, and we're going to go to File. We're going to go to File. Under File, under Image Name, going to locate my file. First I'm going to do Create UV, and you'll see in the preview it's all sort of this weird transparency happening. Here you'll see no transparency happening. So if you forgot to click that alpha channels button, you won't see it right away, but 4, 5, 6, you'll see just this transparent box. Now, if I go back to here, now I have a color and a transparency layer. Listen, the easiest way to go about fixing this is just to ignore this Lambert 2 ever existed and assign a brand new material. This time I'm going to do a blend. When that happens, that transparency material is always going to be on, no matter what. It's just easier to learn this way. So just add a new material, go over here to color again, because that alpha is your alpha transparency, whatever you want to call it, your invisibility layer, and we do not want to have that on. So you'll see I don't have a transparency layer on this one, and I'm going to go ahead and select my crate 2 because this is the one that works, and you'll see my texture here in my file. Now if you ever wanted to make any adjustments to this, one thing I would like to show you is I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm just going to number these using my text box tool. We're going to make this like 72, no way, 250, okay, and make sure it's black. Okay, so just so you can see, if you ever wanted to just sort of make this easier for you, maybe not, but it's definitely a good thing to do, is you can label your UVs. You'll see what I'm doing here in a second, if you haven't already figured it out. So if there's any specific change you wanted to make to any of these, and you wanted to sort of make it easier for yourself to make adjustments to a particular side of a texture that you're modeling, I'm going to save this one out. TGA, create material _3, turn off alpha channels and hit save. 32 bits per pixel, and I'm going to go back into Maya, and you'll notice when I'm going to go to color again, and I'm just going to click this little dark arrow, and then here I'm going to select 3, open, and now you'll see that some of these are sort of weird, where like the 4 here, if there was any easier way to fix this, so there's 2 ways you could fix this. You could go into Photoshop if you wanted it all to be facing the right way. Again, let me go back to Maya to see which way it's facing. It's facing right, so I need to rotate it. So in Photoshop, on this particular one, edit, transform, flip 90, what did I do that way? Let's just see if that works. And I would also have to do it on this, oops, and I can do Control T and just sort of do that and see if that works. Control Shift S, save it out as 3. So if you have some kind of weird alpha channels off, something weird happening in your UV set, reload. Now it's upside down. Another way to fix this, so that's one way. So I went into Photoshop, just adjusted it in the file. The other way you can fix this is, as long as it's a separate UV set, in our UV, UV editor. 4, and actually I want to switch my, here we go. I'm going to use my tools, and I'm going to use my move UV set tool here, and I'm going to rotate. And then the other way, there should be a way to rotate it right up here. No problem. Hold on. Like I said, this is a new UI for me. I don't even see the rotate here. Maybe this is it. Isolate, no. Yeah, I'm just gonna do it this way. You'll see it rotating in the viewport over on the left side. And zoom in. Make sure you have tools, move UV tool, and rotate it. Okay. So I just rotated it around, and now you can see that's another way to fix it. So that being said, I like the way this is set up. So if I go back in here one more time, and I just hide my numbers, still going to save this out as the third one under Targa. 3. Save. And make sure alpha channels is off. Yes. You'll see I just made some quick, easy edits to my object here. And now I'm going to turn this off. And I'm going to reload. Of course not. Oh, that's why. Target options. Save that out. Make sure you click the final thing. And in Maya, reload. And you'll see we have our crate here. A couple things I want to make sure is I turn down my eccentricity. It's wood, so I want it to have more of a sort of a wooden look. And my specular color, it should be fine. I'm not going to bother with that, but wood doesn't reflect anything. So unless you have like a really fine sort of gloss over it, but we don't. So this is our texture, and you'll see here it looks like I may have just slightly missed the edge of it, but you can't really tell because the way the box is. Anyway, there is our textured cube. It looks pretty cool. You can obviously always adjust your texture map in Photoshop. You can make it lighter, darker, color adjustment, saturate it, whatever you want to do. But for basic texturing, that sums it up all in a nutshell right there, or inside of a crate, box, cube, whatever you want to call it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. We're going to cover more texturing soon. And thanks for watching.